Okay, so welcome we are on day 3 of the 5-day challenge. This is all about being your own hero. So by now, I hope that you can see that understanding your values and getting to know your belief systems, that's kind of like the foundation. So just as a quick recap for everybody before we jump into today, the first thing is getting to know your values. Now, there's 2 reasons why we get to know our values, is because they are our absolute pathway to living a fulfilling and satisfied life. But also, that's where your stresses are going to come from as well. So if you get to know what they are, it gives you it kind of gives you like the ability to observe your own life and to work out what's going on. So that's sort of like the foundation. So just as a very quick thing, I hope you can all see this. Oh, God. Okay, so when our mind is balanced, we can see the big picture. That's when we're sort of in a state of poise. You only have moments of this. You don't live your whole life here because, I mean, how boring would that be? Right? But what we want to do is we want to take those moments where you are really polarized, and when you feel like your life's just going around in circles and, problems don't seem to be getting better. They just they seem to like they're just spinning, and you're like, how the hell do I get out of this? Well, the key is when we can bring the challenges, and really challenges are, like our stresses are just lopsided perceptions. Okay. Keep that in mind. Our stresses are simply lopsided perceptions that whatever we are experiencing or about to experience has more drawbacks than benefits to us. That's all it is. I know I've just I don't want to feel like I'm trivializing your life right now. Okay. Because I know that it feels real, but really my intention for yesterday and yesterday and the day before was that we can start to see that our thoughts and our feelings and our belief systems are not real. It's just how we navigate our way through the world. And the beautiful thing with that is it means that then we have an opportunity that we go, okay, well, if I ask myself a different set of questions and I change my perspective, I can change my experience of what's going on for me right now. Okay. In my experience of doing this work, the people that have the people that I just go, their heart opens, they have these like huge shifts, they're in tears of gratitude. They're like, wow, that was amazing. They are the ones that always come to me and their life is falling apart and they're like, how the hell do I get out of this? So I know the theory of it, but what I've experienced is the bigger the chaos, the greater the opportunity. So ain't that the world right now? The bigger the chaos, the greater the opportunity. The world's in chaos and you'll oscillate. Okay. Be kind on yourself. You're going to oscillate between like victim and powerful creator. And that's okay. But what we want to do is give you the opportunity that you don't get stuck in victim. Okay. That you don't get stuck out here going, what do I do? Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Okay. So that's where your values are, when your values are challenged, but also when our beliefs are challenged. Our beliefs are what we believe to be true about the world and about our values. Our beliefs just help us navigate the world. Okay, they're just markers to help us navigate the world. But somewhere along the lines, we attach them to our identity, we make them us, and damn it, we will fight them to the death. Because if you cross my beliefs, like you are wrong and I am right. And the thing is that, like that's innate, like we all have that, right? You're not going to get rid of that. But when you can start to see that your beliefs, your values are just what you believe to be important and your beliefs are just what you've made that mean. Okay. No different to if family and health is high on your values. When you meet people that have family and health high on their values, you'll go, God, they are such a nice person, aren't they? They are just so lovely. And when you meet someone that has opposite values to you, like maybe if you've got somebody, maybe I'm just using this as an example. Maybe if somebody that has family high in their values meets somebody who has finances high in their values, the financial person will go judge that person like they are so lazy. All they want to do is hang out with their kids and their family. And the family values will go, oh my God, that person is so narcissistic and so greedy because all they care about is money. But really what it is it's just a different value system. If everybody in the world valued the same thing, it would come to a grinding halt. Like, we need that diversity. We need differences to kind of propel things, you know. Even you'll find that within a family dynamic, usually, you know, within a, you know, your sort of typical family, you know, usually one will take on finances more than the family. And when in a family, you can kind of see that that works well, because you're delegating the shit that's not important to you to your partner. Who does that? So you're getting them to, you're getting your partner, whether, you know, whether it be, whether you're, you know, really career focused and like really into finances and investing in that, you'll be delegating like household stuff to your partner, and vice versa. So, you know, it doesn't, what I want you to see from this is that it's not, there's no such thing really as good and bad. It's just different values and different belief systems. Okay. Because when people do behave from a stress thing, that's the other thing. We're going to get into that more in communication, but just to, you know, when people are behaving in ways that are stressed, when we can have this model in the back of our mind, we can kind of go, well, I don't need to take that one personally, because they just have a different values. They're just seeing a different perspective that I'm not privy to right at this moment. And it gives us the opportunity to open up our awareness, as opposed to getting like stuck in the story. Okay. You don't need to defend your beliefs. They're just markers that help you navigate the world. It's, you know, it can become pretty low energy conversations when you find yourself in that. Has anyone experienced that? I've experienced that. I'm sure that we've all experienced that of late. Okay, so that's just a quick foundation moving forward. And I do that each day because it just means if you missed a video or you weren't paying attention, it just kind of, you know, gets everyone on the same page before we leap into what we're doing. Now, before I get going, thanks, Danielle, for jumping on. Lovely to see you yesterday. And does anyone here have any questions about anything, or do they have any insights that they'd love to share? That's always a really important thing, because when you share an insight, you know, I have my particular way of communicating things, but when you share things in your own word, you know, in your own words and your experience, it helps other people integrate it as well that are listening on this. Does anyone have any insights that they've had over the past couple of days, that anything that they'd like to share, or any questions? Naomi said, I find it hard to pinpoint my beliefs. Okay. Are your kids still screaming in the background? Can you unmute yourself, or it looks like you've done what I do, and that's like you run out the backyard, because you know that even if they're yelling, they like you're not going to hear them as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, get it. Yeah, so you had some challenges pinpointing your beliefs. Was there a particular area, like where are you? The thing I'll ask you is, where are your challenges right now? What areas of life are you kind of finding a bit challenging at the moment?
Well, it's a hard question too. There's quite a lot, really, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the thing that the way to pinpoint your beliefs is to just start. The first place that I'd say, and this is a great question, is that if you're finding it hard pinpointing your beliefs, go to where you're feeling emotional right now. Go to where you've got feelings of feeling like, you know, highly charged or kind of emotional about something that's going on, you know, in your life, because your emotions just give us feedback. Now, thank you for this. I'm so grateful that you've asked this question, because keep in mind that your emotions are just a byproduct of being out here. Okay, so whether you're like elated or depressed or sad or angry or whatever, your emotions are just feedback to let you know that you're out there. Then there are feelings such as being like enthusiastic, inspired, you know, feeling present, that kind of give you feedback to let you know that you're more in there. So what I would ask is, have you got an example of just something in the last couple of days where you felt emotional? I'm not going to ask you about the situation or delve into your personal life. If I'm just going to ask you some questions to help you navigate it in your own mind. So yeah. Do you have anything that's come up for you in the last couple of days?
Well, finances is stressful at the moment, I guess.
Okay. Well, finances is one of those ones, and generally we will, you often inherit your financial beliefs from your father or your father figure. That's often where they come from. Can I ask you, what does your did you grow up with, was your dad around growing up and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What does your dad believe to be true about money?
That you've got to work hard for it.
Got to work hard. Okay. Got to work hard. Okay. What is there anything else that he believes about money? If you looked at him, if he was looking at your situation right now, how would he be judging you?
Well, he just goes without a lot, I guess. He's always gone a lot without.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe he would say that I need to rein in on certain things, or
okay. So there's a belief in there that I've got to go without. I've got to work hard and I've got to go without. Okay. Yeah. Would you say that you've inherited some of that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Now, if you've got that belief sitting inside, now keep in mind, this is the interesting thing to observe with belief systems. Okay, first of all, just acknowledge, Naomi, that you've inherited that one. But when we have our belief systems, we will recreate situations to kind of confirm that when we're not aware of what's going on, because it feels familiar, even though it's uncomfortable. I can't imagine, like when you're under financial pressure is one of the most, I think it's one of the most challenging things to be under, because it puts you in survival mode. And I had a client once who was sexually abused when she was a kid. And she said, do you know what? And that's nothing compared to being on the bones of my bum and not knowing how I was going to pay my rent each week. She said that was worse. And people don't understand that when I say that to them. But she said, I personally found that way harder. That would put me in survival mode. So I just want to acknowledge that I get it. I get, like, it can be one of the most triggering things, and nothing will put you into survival mode quicker than financial pressure. However, just consider this possibility. I just want you to consider it. I don't want you to agree or disagree. I just want you to consider it, that you have inherited this, maybe from your dad. And then, because what we do is when we inherit these beliefs and when we're not aware of what's going on, we will recreate situations where we feel like we've got to work hard or we've got to go without, because that was kind of what was imprinted in us when we were small kids, and it's familiar. It's what we know. That's kind of like our schema about how we've made the world be. That's what it means to us. So even though it's really uncomfortable and I feel like, huge pressure, I know this one. That's kind of what our subconscious says, like, this is hard, but I know this. I know hard. I know how to do hard. I don't know how to do easy. That's like really uncomfortable for me. So just considering that for a moment, okay? It doesn't need to be your story moving forward. And today we're going to look at fears. So today we're going to, does that help you, Naomi? Did that help you sort of pinpoint them? The reason I say look at what your parents believe is because that just gives you a little bit of it gives you some goalposts. It just gives you a starting point to work with. And the other question that you can ask yourself when it comes to pinpointing your beliefs is, like, do I have a belief system? Like, if you're in a situation, do I have a belief system about the way that things should be? And it can be anything, like, this morning, like, I've got small kids. Like, I mean, if people here have small kids, and especially if you're the mum, for some reason, everyone just drops their shit everywhere and thinks that you're going to do it, right? And when I was observing, like, I'm just using this as a small example, because this morning when I was observing this, I was like, damn it, this is my mum. I've inherited this belief. I pick it up and then I get like frustrated with them because they haven't done it themselves. I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna set this up, set this up different. But we inherit these beliefs. That's the kind of the point that I'm making here. Okay, so let's move into fears. Now, the reason that I've asked you to observe your beliefs is I want you just to acknowledge that your beliefs trigger thoughts and feelings. Your thoughts and feelings trigger behavior.
We don't really need to remove it. We could just mark it off it.
So your beliefs trigger thoughts and feelings. Your thoughts and feelings trigger behaviors, and your behaviors are what creates your reality. And then you find that you're on a loop. Okay. So when you are aware of your beliefs, okay, and Naomi, the next thing I'd be checking in with you is to go, when I'm feeling like, when I've got that belief that I've got to work hard and I've got to go without, how do I behave? So then you're starting to look at what's my default behavior, okay? Because your default behavior is kind of what's, that's your key to changing the situation for yourself, is behaving in a different way. Like our thoughts and feelings don't create our reality, our behaviors do, right? Like our behaviors is what drives it, but we've got to know what's driving that in the first place. Because sometimes we all know what we should be doing, but it's like, why aren't we doing it? It's because all this stuff is like, we've got all this stuff, like all these programs running in the background. Now, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up and go, oh, I shouldn't have this, I should know better, rah, rah, rah. Don't do any of that. Like right now, if you had an iPhone that was running old software and your phone kept crashing, or whatever phone you've got, you wouldn't go, oh my God, this phone is so stupid, like it's so not worthy, it's not worth loving. Like, you wouldn't have you wouldn't beat up on it and go, it's such a stupid phone. You just go, oh, I think I'll just plug it in and do an update. Wouldn't you? You just go, that's all I need to do. I just need to update it. So whatever's not working for you right now, please don't be gentle with yourself, and just let yourself know that it's just time for a little bit of an upgrade of your software. That's what we're doing here. We're just upgrading your software. So any questions about that? If anyone else has any questions, was that helpful for you, Naomi? Was that helpful for others to see how we pinpointed that quite quickly? Okay. So, today we're going to go into fears. How are we going for time? Okay, we're going good. So today we're going into fears, and Danielle, lovely to see you. Thanks for, we can see your face now. That's lovely. So today we're going to go into fears, and initially, many of you are going to go, Donna, this feels counterproductive what you're asking us to do here. But what I would like you to all do, whether you're here or on the replay, is I would like you to write down something that you're fearful of. Something in your reality right now, something about the way the world's going for you. What is it? What is your worst case scenario? What is something that you are feeling anxious about? You're feeling stressed about? What is something that you're really fearful of? Okay. Don't worry, this is just private with you. If somebody does want to share an example, that would always be lovely, but I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. Unless of course you want to share it, because obviously it's always easier if I have an actual example. But yeah, just write down what's your worst case scenario? What's your fear? What is your fear? Confronting. It's confronting to put it down on paper, but just, give yourself a moment and just what is that? What is your worst case scenario? What is your fear? Okay, is anyone brave enough that they want to share it with us? We can workshop it. It's okay if you don't. I'll go through the process step by step. I'll go through the process and then we can have a look. So your fear will be down here. It'll be that something feels really challenging to you. Okay, whatever your fear is. So really, when we look at this model explains so much about your psychology. Having my family living on the street would be my worst nightmare. Okay, I think that's a legit one. I think most people would agree that that's that's a worst nightmare. Okay, so it means that we're polarized down here. That's really, really bad. So what we do is we already know what the bad parts of that are, right? We know what all the drawbacks to that scenario are. Okay, you've got that part, you've nailed it. Okay, we're not going to ask you that question. What you're going to ask yourself now is, based on your highest values, what would be the benefits if that was to actually play out? So what would be the benefits? Let's just use this, having your family living on the street. How would it actually be a benefit? I'm assuming the fact that it's about your family, that your family is a very high value to you, I'm guessing, if you've put that in there. So you start to ask yourself, what is the benefit if we lost our house and we were living on the street? How would it be a benefit to us? And you're probably going, Donna, That's a terrible thing. How could you even suggest that there would be a benefit to that? Let me just throw a few things out there to get the creative juices flowing, okay? You might start with, well, if we've lost everything, there's nothing else to fear. So that's done, tick. Okay, we don't have to stress about losing it. Now all we've got to do is work out, what are we going to do? There's a certain sense of freedom when you're not tied to a location, when you're not tied to a mortgage, when you're not tied to a set of bills. All of a sudden there's options. You know, you can go places, you can do things. You can decide to live life in a different way. You can decide of like, okay, well, that way didn't kind of work for us. So we're going to set things up so that we go back into that, or we're going to pivot, or we're going to redirect. So there's a lot of opportunities that are open. You could look at how your family would come together and pull together as a unit. Yeah, fresh start, exactly. You could, yeah, no mortgage stress. Oh my God, how lovely would that be not to have any mortgage stresses? Your kids would also see what to do in an actual crisis. Imagine what your children would learn from seeing how we behave when we're actually, this is a real life crisis. And I've got lots of, I've got a client just recently that one of her, when we transformed her, their parents were in a similar situation when they grew up and lost everything and went bankrupt, and her mum ended up having to, like, she would deliver chickens and that, and watching how her parents handled this crisis where they did lose their house, and watching how they handled that. She's now, this is a client of mine who, when we first started working together, her business was doing about 10 grand a month. And she has, in under a year now, consistently doing 100K months. And she's like, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 40. And she looks back on her past when her parents lost everything. She's like, I'm so grateful that happened. So you start to look at how would it benefit your kids. You start to look at those sorts of things. So this is what we're doing. We start to look at what's our worst case scenario, and literally just write it down. You just write it down. You start writing down, if that did happen, what would be the benefits? How would that benefit me? How would it benefit my kids? What would the opportunities be that aren't available to us right now? What opportunities would be? Because again, it comes from looking from the perspective that there's actually there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just our perception. So if we have a high value on family and a belief that living in suburbia or living in a home and doing the traditional family life is what is very best for them, that is going to become like, when that gets triggered or challenged, that is really going to push our buttons. Okay. So this is just having a look at it. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean that when you see the benefits of both sides, you're going to go, oh, well, that's fine. I'll just lose my house because, well, yay, it's a fresh start. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that you transcend it and you go, do you know what? I know that we can handle it, whatever happens. I know that there's benefits in both sides, but right now, keeping my house and doing this, or finding a way to have a family home, actually does serve me in my mission of how I'm choosing to raise my children for right now. So I'm still going to pursue that. So don't think just by exploring, because sometimes people get this mental block, right? When I ask them this question, they go, it's almost like they're fearful of looking at the other side, because I think with a lot of like the new age stuff that's out there, they think, oh, if I think about it, I might manifest it. No, we kind of have that, sometimes there's that thing in there. I don't want to look at it in case I create it. So we kind of just go, la, 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 la. But the reality is it actually doesn't go away. It scares the shit out of you on a continuous basis, and it's there. It's part of your life. Okay. So have the courage to lean into this one. Ayana, I hope I've pronounced your life correctly. Fearful of authority controlling my life. Oh, that's a big one that's come up for a few people lately, hasn't it? Okay, again, have a look at what the benefits would be. Have a look at what your absolute worst case scenario is with that. So you have a look at, in what particular way would they be controlling? The thing is as well, is if you have the fear of that, one of the benefits to actually just having the fear of that is that you start to get creative and you start to think about ways to set up your life so that you are more sovereign and more independent. You know, so that's the other thing, you know, like start to, I mean, that's one I think that's come up for a lot of people lately. You know, all of a sudden there's a lot of rules and regulations that don't look like they're going away on how we're doing things. You know, even just, you know, this, you know, scanning in everywhere. I can't see that's ever going to be going away in a, you know, in a hurry. Like, I just think that's sort of, you know, that's something that I think that's planned to stay. Oh yeah, I am pronouncing your name right. Good. I'm not, I often mess up names. I don't know why. So yay, I've got that right. That's awesome. We'll start to have a look at what would the benefits of that be, but go into your absolute worst case scenario of what that actually means to you, like what that actually means to you. Yeah, I'd need to get a little bit more specific on that. What does that mean to you? You know, are you fearful of, you know, oh, I don't know. You know, like that's very broad. Has anybody got a fear around that they can share with me so that I can just nail that a bit clearer for everyone? Ayana, are you in a position where you can unmute yourself and just tell me like a little bit more details of what that is? It's okay if you're not, you might be at work or doing something, so that's okay. Yeah, so just write that down, but get specific. What specifically is it that you're fearful of authorities controlling your life? You know, there'll be a particular aspect that you feel, you know, it won't be every part of your life. Loss of freedom and liberty. Okay, so there'll be loss of freedom in one form. Okay, so there's, you know, particularly, you know, for people that are choosing not to get vaccinated at the moment, there is a loss of freedom in a form, right? There's a loss of freedom. But have you had a look at where the freedom is popping up? Because nothing is ever, there's a law of conservation, okay? And you cannot escape this. Trust me, nobody here is this special that they get to escape universal laws, right? Is that nothing is ever lost or missing. It's just transformed. It's the law of conservation. You know, like this is physics. This is quantum physics. You know, our whole, like, that's based on that model, is that we can't create or destroy energy. All we can do is transform it. Okay, the same is true with us. We cannot, all we can do is transform what's already there. So if you lose freedom in one area, another freedom will pop up in another area. Look at the benefits to the new form of your freedom. So let's just say, for example, if you know, somebody that's choosing not to, or use vaccinations, because that's like a nice, you know, that's a nice easy one for us to look at because it's so prominent at the moment. The freedoms that you'll lose will be, you know, restrictions on certain places that you can go, restrictions on, you know, traveling. Mind you, I mean, not that traveling's actually opened up at the moment. I'm in WA. It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. You're grounded. You're not going anywhere. So have a look at the new form of the freedom. You know, have a look at the new forms of the freedoms. You know, rather than you know, sending your kids to school, you'll homeschool. You'll probably you know, find a community within that. There's a certain sense of freedom. I mean, you know, how lovely to have a community within your community that you actually connect to and you have a common goal, and your children get that experience. Instead of going and waxing hundreds of dollars each week in restaurants and bars and things like that, you start having picnics in parks, you start having friends over to your homes. You know, there's just, the freedoms are different. The freedoms are different. They're not, it's not good or bad, it's just different. So have a look at the new form in that particular one. Look at the benefits in terms of where would my new forms of freedoms show up? How would I, you know, how would that be a benefit to me? Now, that doesn't then mean that we kind of get complacent and go, oh yeah, that's cool. You know, there's plenty of people right now that are, you know, challenging things from a legal perspective. But when you're not so polarized, it means that you can actually have a conversation with a logical argument, and you can present things in a way that you're not coming from fight or flight. Okay, so that's the benefit in that, is that when you know, if your freedom in some way, shape or form is being challenged right now, instead of coming to it from fight or flight, do this process so that you can self-regulate. And when you can self-regulate, you can actually start to, you'll have a different conversation, okay? Because you're not going to be like in that victim, you know, sort of coming from that victim mode. You'll be more like, I'm empowered within this. Like, I'm empowered, but I'm still going to hold, you know, I'm still going to have my say. I'm still going to hold people to account, you know, through the law and that sort of stuff. It's not about, this is not about being complacent. This is about empowering you to see things from a different perspective. Because who's ever had that experience when they're like feeling quite emotional and you get in a discussion or an argument with someone and it just turns to shit? Have we all had that? Great. I'm not the only one. Okay, so keep that in mind, that if you can self-regulate, you're more likely to be clear and concise in what you're trying to communicate. So yeah, so that's perfect. Yeah, awesome. So is this helpful? Has like fear day, is this kind of clear on how you can clear your fears? Am I clear on how to clear fears? Okay, perfect. So the best thing when you're getting started is you write down what the fear is. Okay, you write down what the fear is and you ask yourself, if that was to occur, how would that be a benefit to me? Okay. Now, the other thing is as well is also keep in mind that if there is something locked away in your past. So I've got a friend who was I was speaking to she was originally from Perth, and then she moved over east just as a whole heap of the restrictions came in. I'm not sure if she was in Queensland or northern New South Wales, but she was sort of on that border, and it was quite challenging because she needed to keep crossing over. And, you know, and masks came in and all the rest of it. And she said to me, we were chatting one day, because she has a very high value on freedom. Like, that's really high for her. And that's because she was in an abusive relationship with somebody that did used to cover her face and hold her down, who did used to restrict her, did used to control her, did want to know where her every move was. And my goodness, was she beside herself when this all came in. Just walking out into the world became almost impossible for her, because all of a sudden it brought up all of this stuff from her past when she was in this relationship with someone that was, I don't think the word controlling kind of really does that justice. Like, you know, incredibly restrictive. And when she was in those environments where, you know, where she was restricted on where she went, how she went about things, you know, she often had times where he would cover her face and be quite controlling. So keep in mind that if there's something big like that in the past, you're probably going to need more than just this process. You're going to need to go back and actually resolve that. So so right now, just be aware of that. Now, I did say that I had a free gift for everyone that was on today's call. So the free gift is that I've thrown a lot of stuff at you at the next 3 days, and don't worry, I'm not slowing down anytime soon. We're actually just picking up speed. But if you're here today, or if you've been engaged in the group, what I'm offering everyone is a private 10 to 15 minutes with me, where you can ask me something personal, get clarification on something. And, you know, I'll show up in whatever capacity I need to for you to help you, I know, work some of this stuff out for yourself. So how does that sound to everyone? Is that good? Okay. So I've opened up time for both today and tomorrow. So if you're watching the replay today or tonight, and thank you to those that have been jumping on the replay. I see that there's probably been about 30 or 40 of you engaged with the content after hours. So thanks. I love that. And I was saying before we jumped on, Naomi said, sounds good. So I've got time both today and tomorrow, and I'll just book you in for 15-minute slots. Now, the other thing as well for everybody to keep in mind, of course, I just wanted to reiterate that this is absolutely free, no obligation, this whole challenge. But what I would ask is, if you do get value out of this 5 days, all I ask is, can you tell your friends about it? I get to put this on for free because I don't spend money on Facebook ads. I used to do that. I used to charge for this and spend money on Facebook ads. And I realized I don't want to give my money to them. I'd rather just, you know, if you guys get value from it, share it with your friends. That's all I ask in return. So, and if you don't get value from it, let me know why. so that I can improve it. Okay. But yeah, that's all we ask in return. And also for those that, you know, that this over the next few days, for anybody that is interested in continuing on, I do have a 6-week program coming up. Half of the spaces are already filled. I think there's about 100 people in this group, and I think there's only about 4 spaces left. So again, don't feel like any of this is any obligation, because it's absolutely not. The spaces generally fill themselves, because if you're, you know, if it's the right time for you, you'll know to take the next step. And if the timing is off, then that's fine. Just show up for the next one. Usually I put these on a few times a year, but this year, I don't know what happened to me this year. This is only the 2nd time I've done it for this year. God, and we're in November. It's a bit slack. But it's been a busy year. I've had a lot on, all right. Okay, so fears, I hope that that's given you some clarity, and that's your challenge for tonight. Write down a fear and just start to ask yourself, you've nailed the drawbacks. You already know what they are, otherwise you wouldn't be there, but start to ask yourself a different set of questions. I remember years ago when sitting in this room when I very first started to get introduced to all of this personal development work, and I was like sitting there and I was watching John on stage, who became one of my mentors, and I remember him saying, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. And for me, that was a real moment, because I remember thinking, fuck, I don't know what, oh, sorry. I swore when you've got a baby there, sorry. I was like, I don't know what questions I'm asking myself. I was like, what are those questions? I want to know I want to ask myself quality questions. But these are the questions when you can have a look at your mind from this perspective and start asking yourself questions that help you to self-regulate your mind. And this starts to become your default position, that you can do this in the moment when you're in a stressful situation. All of a sudden, your thoughts and beliefs and your emotions are no longer running you. You start to master your life. And from there, you can see a bigger picture, and you're spending more time hanging out with your soul's purpose and less time hanging out in other people's BS that you're getting triggered by. And that's when you've started to master your life. And it's available to you. It's absolutely like what I'm sharing with you. There's not any hidden secret or anything like that. It just takes it takes a bit of commitment from you guys. You've got to do it on a consistent basis for it to become part of your psychology. But it gets easier and easier. I mean, Tash has been doing this work with me now. Tash has been here from the beginning of me running these online programs. So about 5 years now. Tash, does it get easier? Kind of.
Yes, it does.
And I think you're able to kind of recognize it as well quicker. Like, I mean, have you got time to just give us a quick, I can see you're at work.
Good. Yeah, I'm still on a call.
Oh, so you keep doing your call. I'm surprised that you're able to multitask, so that's fine.
Oh, look, yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Thanks, Tash. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to mute Tash. Oh no, Tash has muted herself. Okay, so
because for some reason,
Tash, mute yourself. Okay, so who's got time to meet with me today? Who's got 15 minutes? And what I'll do is I'll just start booking you in. But what I'll do is I'll just quickly wrap it up from here. And then I'll stop the recording. But for those that have been on here, please engage in today's challenge. It will be one of the most valuable things navigating your way through the next, I don't know, is it going to be months or years? Who knows? We don't know really, do we? We don't know how long this shit show is going to go on for, but this will absolutely be one of the most valuable tools that you'll learn. This has absolutely been my fallback position. I've had moments where I was like, oh, this feels too big for me. And I've just gone back to basics. I've used this process myself. I've used it with my clients. I know that it works. I'm certain that it works. I'm certain that it will work for you if you have the courage to lean into it. And that you can really start to master things, because, having this stress and anxiety sitting behind the scenes, it's no way to live your life. It's, Ayana, I've got a dentist. Yeah, we'll book you in for tomorrow. So that's no problems. Just stay on the line, everyone, and I'm just going to book you in. So please engage in today's challenge. This is where you start to master your life. This is absolutely, if this is new material, is this new material for everyone that's on here? Have you guys heard, is this sort of kind of new, something that you might have heard? Yeah. this will be one of the most valuable tools that, you know, that you use over the next few months or few years or whatever it is. So please engage in it. Post your, for those that are on the replay, post your experience up. We'd love to hear about it. You know, when we hear other people's experiences, it helps us integrate it and we all learn something at the same time. So thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow we're going to look at shame and guilt. Okay, shame and guilt's a big one. Especially, has anyone been shamed lately or felt guilty about something that they've done? Okay, nothing will keep you more stuck than shame and guilt. Fear will make you, fear will paralyze you, but shame and guilt just, you know, it silences us. It makes us go quiet. It silences us. So, so please make sure that you're on tomorrow's call. And that's all I've got from, I'm just going to, everyone stay on the line and I'm just going to stop the recording.